Welcome to the JTF show. I'm your host, Jason Selton, and today we're going to continue on the Bible versus Vedas discussion. This is part 2, and if you want more context, please look at part 1 before this one. And yeah, we're just going to get more into the videos and just the stuff in general. Further ado, let's get into the video.
The Trimurti. The first claim that we will examine by Pastor Ratan comes from his video entitled, How Did Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara Come From?
And we will see this video of Pastor Ratan talking about the Bible versus Vedas debate series, not debate, discussion, well, not discussion, series. This Bible versus Vedas series that is pretty much what his well, not his thumbnail, but just type in Pastor Ratan Bible versus Vedas, and you should find it there. And we are going to look at what he says, the person himself, Pastor Ratan, of what he says about this issue, I guess you can say. And let's get into his video.
What was the question to me was, where and how did Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara have come? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara. People gave the term Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva Maheshwara to be the destroyer. So, Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara are born from Brahmakal and Prakriti Durga. The parents were Kal and Durga, where the parents were Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara. So they were not created, they were born. So God is not created. God is by himself. So Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara are not gods because they have taken birth.
And I guess to back up this claim, because I've done my research on this, you can just type in where did Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva come from, or were they born, or something like that. And what I've got was, according to bkpkvideo.com, and they say, according to Shiva Purusha Ren, I could be wrong, just type in bkpkvideo.com, where did Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva come from. Most likely just type that in and it should be there. And according to them, according to N, not ARAN, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are born from Mother Durga, and Mother Durga, the goddess, if I'm correct, is called the mother of all the three gods. The combustion. Sorry, I think the combustion. I'll just spell it out. COMBINATO. Sorry, TION of SADASIVA, aka Kal, most likely Brahma Kal, and Durga is the origin of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And to get into more context, I think of a chapter from the Vedas that prove this claim to be true, again, you can just look it up on BK and BKP. Um, it's it's on caps bkpkvideo.com. This is where I got that from. And it's most likely other sources, and they get more into where the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva come from. So this to tell you guys that. So let's see what VA says about why that is wrong.
He makes a statement that the three primary Hindu devas, called the Trimurti, are not really divine, as they have a genealogy and a point of origin in time. Timeless. The pastor says, quote, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara are born from Brahma Kal and Prakriti Durga. Their parents were Kal and Durga. Not created, born. God is not created, God is by himself. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara are not gods. They took birth by Kal and Durga. All are perishable. Unquote. Kal Brahma and Prakriti Durga. This quote is a field of thorns, overgrown with weeds and errors. It is necessary to know what this phrase, Kal Brahma, means. First, the understanding of creation within the Hindu tradition is not simply God spoke and it was there. It is a process of the divine unfolding from the unmanifest aspects of the divine, called Ishvara in some traditions, and emerging into creation.
Wrong. Okay, sorry. I thought we were on, and I just noticed that we weren't on. Yikes. But what I was going to say is, first of all, creation was, yes, that is part of it, but it also took a process. Like, I think it's in Genesis 2 with the mist, which is aka a cloud, forming water to help the plants or the first plant grow. If I'm correct, that is in Genesis somewhere. Most likely Genesis 2. Maybe Genesis 1, but I bet it's most likely Genesis 2. And in general, it wasn't just God spoke and it was there. It's that God spoke and then there was an effect, because the cause was God spoke and the effect was the process of creation. It didn't just happen, it had a process, as we see in Genesis 1, but more in Genesis 2 in general. And if I'm correct, VA says I think Durga or another deity in Hinduism is like the mother of all. But I think he was quoting a Veda to debunk Pastor Ratan. But I think he also believed it. I don't know, which just proves, which just I guess proves the point. I think it's better to have one God that can do anything and everything good than many gods that can do many things and that they are a little bit flawed and or from birth in this case, according to my research. And in general, I'm not trying to disrespect Hindus or anything like that, but I'm just saying I think the Bible makes more sense and it's less confusing. And again, this isn't for every Christian to do, to look up with different religions and still be a Christian. That's not for everybody. God calls people, and people have gifts from God and just gifts in general to understand another person's religion, but still being in their own religion as well. I mean, the others do the same, so how come Christians can't? Just to tell you that, because I know maybe some people might be like, is Jason still a Christian? Yes, I'm still a Christian. I just looked up on other religions, because I can't have a discussion of Bible versus Vedas if I don't know the Vedas at all. I can't be one-sided in this issue in general. So there is that. And the confusion that I have is, like, for Christians, you have to understand Hinduism is not based on a Christian view of God is an uncaused cause, which is a debate in itself, which I'm not going to get into. According to Christianity, if God was created and or born, therefore he's not God. But that's, with all due respect, Christianity's perspective of how God and gods work. And just in general, it gets a little bit confusing because I thought in some traditions of Hinduism, Vishnu was like the one and only deity, and the others are just avatars and gods of Vishnu. But if that's true, then Brahma isn't the creator god then, in Christian perspective. Because we look at Roman and Greek mythology, gods are born and they're still called gods. Either they're birthed through other gods and or mortal women and sometimes mortal men, but I'm not gonna get into that. No, no, definitely not gonna get into Greek and Roman mythology when it comes to birth. I'm not. I'm not gonna get demonetized, but for real though, it just gets a little bit confusing to us because, being honest, in my personal opinion, in the Christian view or Christian perspective, I would rather have one God that can do anything and everything good for him and for me than, I find correct, it was 300 million gods that do different things that have flaws. In this case, I guess give birth, which is not an issue, but in a Christian perspective, if God was born, he would not be God. And yeah, in the 3 million that I talked, the 300 million, I was talking about the Hindu gods. And for some people, counting, because in some traditions of Hinduism, you are a god, and or you lost your godness somehow, and you need to bring it back, and that's why people like Krishna are here, I guess, in a sense of a way. Again, I am trying to be respectful, but I'm just saying, in a broad picture, that is sort of what some traditions are saying. Plus, this video is a little bit long enough. Sorry about that, guys. It will get better, promise. And yeah, do your research, believe what you want to believe, just research it and base it on facts so it will never, go down. Like, build your foundation in God. It will never fall down. And yeah, God bless and have a great day.